gonna sail on.
They go right foot, then left. And what they ain't gonna do is finesse. They done work too hard, too long. It's about time to come and right these wrongs. They about justice and peace.
We can do this.
And if you wanna see some change, say the action starts with me. Biden, let's vote, vote, vote. Harris, let's vote, vote, vote. Biden, let's vote, vote, vote.
Everybody. I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
Thank you for joining this Biden-Harris campaign National Women for Biden call with Scarlett Johansson and Representative Jahana Hayes. And now, please welcome Biden-Harris Campaign Women Vote Director Carissa Smith and Women for Biden Advisor Rachel Wallace.
Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome to this evening's Women for Biden.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. We hope you liked
Video Music Awards.
Oh, go ahead, Carissa. Sorry, you cut out for a minute.
Oh, sorry about that. I was just saying how awesome the ad was, lifting my spirits this week.
Yeah, that was an amazing ad. We premiered it on the MTV Music Video Awards earlier this week, which was just, it's been in my head for sure. Well, we're really glad that you're here. We're going to be talking about a very important conversation. This summer has been really tough. And instead of having a back to school season that feels like a fresh beginning, Americans across the country, whether we're talking educators, students, families, really entire communities, they are all still feeling really anxious. So Jill Biden earlier this week kicked off a back to school tour where she's been meeting with educators in states like North Carolina and Florida and hearing their concerns about reopening safely. And in fact, Joe Biden traveled to Pittsburgh earlier this week and he really laid this out quite clearly. The American people do not feel safe in Donald Trump's America, not safe from the spread of COVID-19, not safe from economic ruin, not safe from crime and looting, not safe from racially motivated violence. And it's not like people don't want things to go back to normal, right? College students want to be on campus. Parents want to send their kids back to school, back to childcare centers. We want to feel safe in our streets. And all of us would rather be having this conversation in person tonight, right? But Donald Trump has just not done the work to make that possible. So that's why we're here tonight to talk about what it's going to take for schools to be able to reopen safely and not just get things back to normal, but as Joe Biden says, to build back better. So before we dive in, we wanted to take a moment and really celebrate this community. We put out a call for yard signs on the Women for Biden-Harris 2020 Facebook group. We asked folks to show their Biden-Harris pride, post a photo of how they're showing support for the campaign. And of course, Women for Biden really delivered. We've seen hundreds of photos from women across the country, and we're really excited to showcase just a couple of those tonight. You know, yard signs are some of the most visible ways that we can show our support, especially when so many of us are social distancing. So that's why we wanted to show them here. And shout out to all of these women, especially my home state of Pennsylvania, for their terrific signs. And by the way, you can order your own sign, you can order your own flag and support the campaign by going to our official campaign shop. We are going to drop the link in the chat. So really the 2020 version of back to school shopping. So thank you to everyone who's been doing these awesome, awesome photos and sharing them with us. I love this Michigan photo and also would like to be on that front porch right now. So these are just really, really terrific shows of support. So we have one final update for you. Everyone on this call tonight has been part of the tremendous growth that we've seen in Women for Biden. This network is really a force to be reckoned with. And now is the time to make that force feel felt in every state across the country. So we are 2 months out from Election Day, and that's really critical, but really we are 2 months out from the end of the election because people in states like North Carolina are already requesting their ballots by mail. So this is really the time to take action. After next week, we will be starting weekends of action where we will organize and mobilize our fantastic volunteers and supporters across the country. So Women for Biden will be coming together and texting on Saturdays. We'll be making phone calls on Sundays, and we will be making sure that you have this information so that you can join us. But we wanted to give you sort of a heads up so you can start making plans to hang out with us on weekends in addition to Thursdays. These events will be run by women for women, and every weekend we're going to adopt a different battleground state and reach out to voters so they have the information they need to be heard this fall. Okay, updates over. Let's get to the main event. Tonight we have two very special guests to talk about what's going on in schools across America. And to kick things off, we'd like to introduce our moderator for tonight's conversation, Courtney O'Donnell. Courtney is mom to Oliver and Felix. She previously served as communications director for Dr. Jill Biden in the White House, and she is an officially brand new member of Team Joe. She just joined to the campaign as chief of staff to Senator Harris's husband, Doug Emhoff. So Courtney, we're so glad you're here tonight. Welcome.
Hi there. Thanks, Rachel and Carissa. It's so great to be here. As Rachel said, I'm Courtney O'Donnell, chief of staff to Doug Emhoff, our next and second gentleman. I'm so happy to be here tonight. I've been a proud member of Women for Biden since the beginning of the campaign, and now to be officially on board is just an honor. And I came to this campaign precisely because I know how much Joe Biden and Kamala Harris care about supporting working families. I also joined this campaign because as a mom, I'd like to have a president and a vice president that my boys can look up to. Thanks to Donald Trump's failed leadership, the virus has pulled my kids, two boys who you may see in the background at any minute, and many of yours out of the classroom and onto Zoom. And I am so grateful for the heroic work that our teachers and schools are doing to keep learning happening safely and remotely. But every time I see the kids hunched over their laptops or around the house, I think it just didn't have to be this way. And we're so lucky to have a candidate in Joe Biden who can help lead us out of this. Many of you know on this gathering that being a mom is hard even under the best of circumstances. And so if we do our jobs and elect Joe and Kamala, we'll have a team in the White House who gets this and is in our corner. But that can only happen with your help. So I want to thank you for being here today, for all you've been doing and all you're going to do in the next 61 days. And so now it's my true pleasure to introduce two leaders in their own right who are equally devoted to making the world a better place for our kids and all kids, Congresswoman Jahana Hayes and Scarlett Johansson. Congresswoman Jahana Hayes serves as the U.S. representative for Connecticut's 5th Congressional District. She was recognized as National Teacher of the Year in 2016 and then ran for Congress in 2018, becoming the first African-American woman and first African-American Democrat to represent Connecticut in Congress. She serves on the House committees on education and labor and agriculture. And actress and producer Scarlett Johansson is a Tony and BAFTA winner and 5-time Golden Globe nominee. She most recently starred in the final installment of the Avengers film series, Avengers Endgame, in the Golden Globe nominated Marriage Story and in Taika Waititi's Jojo Rabbit. Welcome to you both. Thank you so much for being here. So my first question is for both of you. How are you thinking about the start of this school year? And what are your principal concerns? And Congressman, can we start with you?
My answer to that, first of all, thank you for having me. This is awesome. But my answer is simple: safety. I think people keep talking about all of these other concerns. Until we get safety back under control, we cannot open schools. School is just geography. If people think that students will return and thrive and resume learning, they're not going to do that if they're not healthy, if they're hungry, if their parents have lost their jobs, if they're homeless now, if they have all of this recurring trauma from the last 6 months that has not been addressed. And we are reopening schools absent data, absent any security for them. We're not instilling confidence in teachers. And generally when kids, we're not doing that for kids. And generally when kids don't have that, it comes from their teachers. And what I can tell you is that my teacher friends are scared. They're emailing me and they're calling me. They're scared for their safety. They are afraid that they're going to have to stand in front of kids and make promises that they cannot keep. They're going to have to tell them it's okay when they don't know if it is. My community, my school district was a Title I district. They don't have the funding or the resources to do to even follow the basic guidelines that they're being asked to follow. And they can't do that without leadership. So safety is my number one concern, both as a mother, as an educator, and as a congresswoman.
Thank you. Scarlett, do you want to add some thoughts?
I have a young daughter, Rose, who's 6 years old, who's going into first grade this year. And I have to say, I echo the same, sentiment as Congresswoman Hayes. I'm also concerned about my daughter's safety and our family's safety and our friends' safety. I think right now, like so many parents, I'm sort of grappling with, two things that I'm deciding. On one hand, I talked to my daughter's pediatrician, and he's saying, the most important thing for children, young school children that are, under that third grade, second grade, first grade is socialization. It's so important for their mental health. It's so important for, for how they socialize, how they grow, how they become, members of society. And in some ways your parents, I think, are forced to try to decide what's more important, their children's mental health and their children's developmental health, or their physical health. Is it more important for your kids to go physically to school and have that, much needed interaction with other children? But then on the same hand, you're putting your kids' health at risk, your family's health at risk. I personally have family members that are, high risk, and, I'm thinking, am I not going to be able to then see my mom or see, their family at risk, family members, because my daughter is going to school? I mean, it's a very, very scary time. And I think it's really, it's devastating that parents are being asked to grapple with this. It's very stressful, and, it's just emotionally so draining. It's on top of being just scared for, how the year is going to go, how to grapple with, this online education, what that looks like, and, how are working parents supposed to juggle all of those things. It's been very, very tough.
Yeah,
tough for everyone.
I think you both have really touched into this growing sense of anxiety, and that also a sense that President Trump isn't doing the work to get the virus under control, and no end in sight to this. In fact, a rush to open schools without those safety parameters in place. And, I know Congresswoman Hayes, as a former teacher yourself, as an educator, I'd love to hear a bit of your perspective. I know Dr. Biden, an educator herself, has been out visiting with teachers, members of the school community, parents as well, but really would love your insights as a teacher, and what you're hearing from educators in your conversations.
Right. There's no such thing as a former teacher. I am hardwired as an educator. And these are things I think about all of the time. And I feel weird because she just called me Congresswoman Hayes, and I'm going to call you Scarlett just because I love the way it sounds. So I can call you Miss Scarlett if you like. But it's this idea, because everyone's talking about kids' social and emotional well-being, but no one is saying that because we recognize the trauma that kids are going to have and the relationships that they are going to be denied, we're going to have trauma-informed counselors meet them when they come to school. We're going to make sure that we have people there to kind of unpack some of the challenges that they're feeling. Teaching is about relationships. It's about proximity. I was a high school teacher, and I had kids come in and gave me a hug every day. You would feed off of their body language. So the idea that they're going to come into a building and be 6 feet apart and can't socialize with their friends is going to be strange and foreign to them, and will not be reminiscent of school. And then I think the other thing, and this is why I'm so excited about this ticket with both Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, because they get it. They understand education. They understand that we have to make intentional investments in education. They understand that COVID has just kind of widened those disparity gaps, because I have 41 towns that I cover, and some of them will be okay. They'll be able to open. They'll bring in a facilities manager to space out the building. They'll buy all the equipment and the supplies, and they'll be up and running. And other districts will be crippled because they're already minority districts, Title I districts, low-income districts, and they can't afford to do any of these things without support from the government. But I think the last thing, when I talk to my teacher friends, it cannot be lost. It's not just the president. He has a train of accomplices. We have a Secretary of Education who does not believe in public education. And I don't know how, as an educator, you can go in with confidence when the person who should be advocating and fighting on your behalf doesn't even believe in the work that you do. The secretary hasn't come before Congress one time to say, this is what I need to get schools open safely. This is what I need to make sure teachers are prepared. Teaching is a profession. Teachers should have gotten professional development back in April to teach virtually, to make sure they had the skills in case we had to go to a hybrid or virtual. You know, it's not like you just turn on the computer and turn it around. It's a skill that has to be learned, that has to be practiced. And we didn't even take the time to do that. And now, with no new information, we closed schools because of this virus, and now we're opening them. Schools are the only part of our economy that we're even considering opening at full capacity, all inside, all in person. And teachers should not be left with that burden with no support from the top. So there are so many people who are complicit in what is happening right now.
Absolutely. Scarlett, I don't know if you wanted to add to that point, but I think what you've touched upon, Congresswoman, really speaks to, you know, the planning that is required for all schools, not just some schools, and the cooperation with members of Congress and the entire administration that's required. So that is, you know, we're seeing that, the lack of that, and working with members of Congress and being able to provide all schools with the resources they need. I wanted to turn to, because there are many people on the call who may not have been as engaged, and we've seen the Women for Biden community grow over time. And I think it speaks to a huge rise in mothers getting involved and becoming advocates in their communities. And I'd love to hear, Scarlett, some of your impressions as a mom yourself. Like, what are you hearing from moms? What do you, how do you think they're engaging, and any advice or thoughts you have from others who may want to become more active?
You know, I think it's hard because all of my, you know, friends that are moms are juggling so much. You know, they're juggling their children at home, they're working from home. Some of them have businesses that have failed or struggling. They are in, you know, dual income households, and, you know, both parents are trying to, you know, figure out at times, you know, who's using their computer and how to balance that. You know, it's such a difficult time to really ask people to, with all of that going on, to give more of their time. You know, for people that do have the time, obviously canvassing is really important. Fundraising is really important. Voter awareness and engagement is super important. You know, I've been involved with the Get Out the Vote initiative for a very, very long time. You know, and that there's different organizations and NGOs, obviously, that can, you know, that are, I think, doing great work, like Get Out the Vote and other bipartisan organizations. But, you know, for me, I think the most important thing is moms helping other moms, women supporting other women. That has been a lifeline for me. It's been a lifeline for all of my friends with children. You know, just trying to figure out, okay, you know, if we have to move to a plan B, you know, can we do virtual learning in one another's homes? Is there a way that we can create after school pods where everybody's committed to a safe environment, where our children can continue their education, and even, you know, just have the time to socialize in a safe place with one another? Thinking of ways that we can carpool now that there is no public transportation. You know, can we figure out ways that we can help each other make bagged lunches? All of that stuff is really, you know, so vitally important. And then just having the emotional support from other moms and being able to, you know, have a shoulder to cry on and just talk about how tough this is. And, you know, I mean, that is all, you know, been invaluable, I think, and will be, you know, continue to be invaluable, you know, for certainly the upcoming months, you know, up until the election. I think that's, you know, we're just all waiting with bated breath, just, you know, and you know, hoping that, you know, we'll be alleviated of this, because it's going to be, I think it's going to be a very tough winter for so many parents.
We can't hear you. Courtney, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Apologies.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is all happening in an environment that has been marked by communities in turmoil, with episodes of police violence that have sparked protests and demonstrations across America. And as the Congresswoman referenced earlier, you know, COVID has really unlocked and made so visible some of the other greater inequality and that has existed across our country. And so, Congresswoman, I'd love to hear from you, your perspective as a Congresswoman and a mother, on what you're hearing from women about how they're feeling about safety of their children and their communities, and ways you would encourage them to get engaged.
I think, since we're talking about educators, like, we went from, there's this sense of, back in March, teachers were the heroes. You know, they turned everything around, they went to virtual learning, and then it went to, they're too lazy to go back to work. So there's all of these, you know, putting people in different categories. And what I've been saying over and over again is parents are going to need to be their own best advocate, because a lot of the information that's coming down, teachers alone can't fight for these changes for children. Our future depends on what we do in this next election. We have seen just an emboldened sense of hate. I was watching, as I was watching the closing of the 2 conventions last week, when I was in the classroom as a history teacher, I would have had my students watch the convention, and we would have talked about it and we would have unpacked it. But one of those conventions was so just pressurized that it would have created a conversation in class that I'm not sure I would have been able to handle it. And this is the direction that we're moving. So parents have to say, I don't accept this. I don't give you permission to do this. And especially when we're talking about education. On my Committee of Education and Labor, every hearing, you have a member from the other side just really spotlighting the fact that they don't think that the federal government should have any responsibility to educate our children. That's not our job. That's not our responsibility. They see no value in other people's children. So as parents, as mothers, we have to stand up for our kids who can't stand up for themselves, and make sure that we're fighting for them, you know, because they don't vote. You know, people say kids don't, that's what people said to me when I ran. Why do you spend so much time with children? They don't vote. They worked on my campaign, they volunteered, and they were completely disregarded because they don't vote. So we as their parents have to vote for them.
Yeah, I think that's super powerful. And I think why I know I feel so strongly about being a part of the Biden-Harris campaign, because to be able to advocate not just for some families, but for all families, and especially those children who haven't had a voice and haven't had a seat at the table.
But I think, just really quick, Courtney, I think if this year hasn't taught us anything, as a mother, if you're okay with seeing other people's kids in cages, you know, as a mother, if you're okay with seeing just some of the hateful rhetoric, we wouldn't allow that from a soccer coach. We wouldn't allow that. If I were a teacher and said half of the things that this president, like you said, you want someone that your children can look up to. This isn't about policy anymore. You know, Republicans and Democrats have always kind of had different ideas about how we get to, you know, which direction we go on policy. This is about civility now. This is about decency. This is about where you want your kids to grow up.
Absolutely. And I think it is, as we've talked, it's hard being a parent on a good day, but to be able to be afraid that your children will pick up bad behaviors from, the highest office in the land is something that, I think would have been unthinkable prior to this time. I'd love to, before we wrap, I'd love to pivot then to, a lot of people are discouraged right now. A lot of people are hurting right now. So I want to end on a positive and hopeful note. So I'd love to ask each of you in just a few words to think about a Biden-Harris administration and to think what makes you most excited about that, and tell us as a parent what that would look like to you. And I'd love to start with you, Scarlett.
I think it looks like we might have lost her. Did we?
I think we may have. I think everyone is the Wi-Fi connection. I'd love to hear from you, Representative, about the hope and optimism that.
Well, I guess first of all, I love that you're taking care of Doug, because I think it's awesome that I didn't know that was a thing, but I think that that's awesome. But this ticket had me at hello. I mean, Joe Biden, one thing that I think we all agree on is just such a decent man who cares about people, who takes time to hear people and listen to people. And I think in a post-COVID America, and after this administration, there's going to be so much hurt and so much healing that has to be done. And I loved at the end of the convention where Dr. Biden said, how do you heal a broken country? The same way you heal a broken family. And I feel safe with a Biden administration. And Kamala Harris, I just think, brings just a perspective and a dynamism, and just really, I know her personally, and I've been, a supporter. So she was the very first person to endorse me and help me with my campaign. And literally, this is when I couldn't get anyone to listen to me. And she said to me, tell me what you can do why you think you can make someone else's life better. That was literally the way our friendship developed. So both of them are just interested in speaking up for people who don't have a voice. And that's what this country's going to need. We can't go back to where we were before this pandemic. So if people are looking for schools to reopen the way they did in March, I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for better. I'm looking to close those gaps and to fix the things that we've known historically have been wrong, and now to start to address them. A Trump administration is not going to have honest conversations about race like we need to. The Biden-Harris ticket is ready to do that. They're ready to talk about education and race and healthcare and all of the things in the way that we need to talk about them. And I'm just so thrilled, to be able to be a part of that and to do my small part to help get the two of them elected.
Well, we can't thank you enough. And I will echo what you said, that I think with this entire team, and Doug today was talking about, his daughter starting her first day of school in front of a computer, and excited to just work as hard as he can as well for this ticket. And I think at the highest level, we have the greatest commitment to change. And so we can't thank you enough for your role as an educator and elected official. I know, I think Scarlett, like so many of us, had some Wi-Fi connectivity issues, but really appreciate her using her microphone and platform to advocate for action. And so thank you so much for joining. And I'm going to hand it back to Lena and Rachel to close out and give some more information.
Yeah, thank you so much, Courtney, Scarlett, and Congresswoman for that great conversation on a topic that's on all of our minds right now. I'm Lena, I'm on the Women for Biden team, and I want to end by asking you to find some time over the next few days to do something to help elect Joe and Kamala this fall. Maybe you invite a few friends to our Labor Day event this Monday. Maybe you make some calls to voters. Maybe you download our Vote Joe app by texting APP app to 30330 and text some friends about making a plan to vote.
Yeah, we are down to the wire here. So this is the time for all of us to get involved. You've just heard like 1,000 good reasons from Congresswoman Hayes and Scarlett Johansson and Courtney about really what's at stake this November. And I can't stop thinking about what First Lady Michelle Obama said at the Democratic Convention when she spoke about how we would have won Michigan in 2016 if we had won just 2 more votes per precinct in the state. 2 votes per precinct. So ask yourself, we all need to ask ourselves, what can we do to help us get those 2 votes in each precinct? That is something we can join a phone bank and reach those 2 voters. We can join a text bank and reach those 2 voters. So please make the time to get involved. As you heard tonight, this is so important, and there's just a lot at stake.
Yeah, it really is so important, Rachel. This is a tough fight, but it's one we can win. We know that when women unite, when women show up, we will win. So thank you again for joining us. Thank you for being in this fight with us. And we hope to see you on Labor Day for our event this coming Monday.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to our interpreter tonight, Crystal. We are so grateful for you and your work and for making this event accessible. Thank you. And we hope to see everybody on Monday. Have a great evening and stay safe.
To be real.